Can you really sit here? You're not part of the family, just married in. My mother-in-law said mean things to me while we were having dinner at a fancy restaurant. She looked at me with a smirk and waved her hand. I felt so mad but tried to stay calm. Are you telling me to leave? I asked her. I was shaking with anger. Just as I was about to get up and leave, my mother-in-law stopped me. Hold on, if you're leaving early, who's going to pay the bill? Give me the money. She said it with a proud look on her face. I smiled back at her and said, why should I pay for someone I barely know? My name is Maya, and I'm 29 years old. I work in an office. My husband, Tyrell, is the same age as me, and we usually have a good time together. But there's one problem, my mother-in-law. She's always trying to control me and make me do things her way. My mother-in-law lives close by, so she often visits our house without being asked and keeps complaining about everything. She always has something to say about my cooking, saying it's not good enough for her son. She also criticizes how I keep the house, calling me a failure. Even though she knows I work during the day, she comes in the evening and mocks me for being at home. But she acts differently when my husband is around, so he doesn't believe me when I tell him about her behavior. He thinks she's fine because he hasn't seen her being mean to me. She seems normal at first, so my husband doesn't understand how bad it really is. Now things have gotten worse. She even has a key to our house that my husband gave her, and she uses it to come in whenever she wants, complaining about cleaning and cooking. She also talks badly about me to our neighbors. It's just one thing after another with her. I've been telling my husband for a while now that I want us to move far away from my in-laws, but he's been too busy with a big project at work to take me seriously. Then something good happened. My husband got a promotion. His project was a big success, so he got promoted and he'll be making more money now. Now that we're making more money, what do you think about starting a family? But if we're going to have kids, I want to live in a place that's good for them. There aren't many places for kids to play around here, and not many daycare centers. Don't you think it's time we moved? Finally, my husband agreed that we should move. I was happier about this than I was about his promotion, but that happiness didn't last long. The next day, my mother-in-law showed up at our house unannounced like usual. I was annoyed, thinking she was going to nag me again, but this time it was different. I want to celebrate my son's promotion by taking him to a fancy restaurant. It's really expensive, but the food is great, and everyone there is very nice, she said. That sounds nice. Good for you, I replied. You're still not very friendly, she said. Anyway, I want you to come with us. Please come. I'll see if I can, but it might not work out, I said. Don't say that. We want you to come, she insisted. Even though I said I might not be able to make it, my mother-in-law just smiled and left. She used to exclude me from things, but now she's inviting me and saying she'll wait. Something's up. When I asked my husband about it later, he said he had already agreed to go with her. She booked the restaurant for us, and I'm excited about it, he said. You're excited about this, right, Maya? My husband asked. Sorry, but I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm worried about how much it'll cost at such an expensive place. I don't want to go. Just tell them I'm busy and have fun without me, I replied. Why are you being so negative? Plus, it's not just us going. My brothers and their wives will be there too. It wouldn't be right if you didn't come and celebrate with the whole family, my husband said, eager for us to go to the fancy restaurant. He really wanted me to go, even though I didn't want to. He didn't seem to listen to me anymore. If he believes his mom more than me, I'll use the voice recorder I bought online to record her being mean to me. I thought to myself, she's probably going to be mean to me at the celebration too. I'll record her and show it to my husband. If he still takes her side, I'll think about divorcing him. Making that decision made me feel a bit better. But the day of meeting my mother-in-law at the restaurant felt really sad, and I couldn't stop sighing. I didn't know my husband's brothers well. I had only met them briefly at our wedding, and I barely remember talking to their wives beyond saying hello. When we got to the restaurant, the waiter took us to a big room. My mother-in-law, one of my husband's brothers and his wife, and another brother and his wife were already there, sitting down. The fancy food was already on the table, and there was only one empty seat. My husband looked confused and wondered if there was a mistake. Did the waiter mess up? I'll go check, he said and left the room. As soon as he left, everyone started eating. Then my mother-in-law stood up and looked at me with a mean expression. There's no seat for you. Why would I invite someone who just married into our family to our celebration? So here's your choice. Prove you want to be part of our family or leave and never come back. What's it going to be? Without hesitating, I said, no, I'm leaving. My mother-in-law looked surprised for a moment. Did she really think I would beg her to accept me as family in this situation? No chance. Listen, if you pay for everyone's meal here, I'll accept you as part of Terrell's family. You must be upset about being treated like a stranger, so pay up and become family, my mother-in-law said. I already told you, I'm leaving. Why should I pay for someone else's family's meal? I replied as I walked away. Mother-in-law slammed the table and yelled, Don't you understand? I'm trying to make you part of the family. Are you okay with being a stranger? Pay up. No, I'm fine being a stranger. And since I'm a stranger, I'm not paying for your meal. Goodbye. Mother-in-law tried to catch up to me, but by the time she got to the door of the room from the farthest seat, I was already at the restaurant's exit. When I got home and was thinking of emailing my husband, he returned within 10 minutes. The waiter said the reservation was correct, and my mom was causing a scene. I heard everything from my brother, he said. I'm sorry you had to go through that. You came back quickly, I said. It seems like she would have caused a scene if you had stayed, he replied. How could I sit with them after they insulted my Maya? My husband quickly understood what had happened after I left and hurriedly came back home to me. After I said I was okay being treated like a stranger, it seemed to wake up my husband's brother's wives. They used to think they had to silently endure being treated badly, but seeing me stand up for myself made them realize they could too. They both left and their husbands quickly followed. I expected my mother-in-law to complain, and sure enough, the phone started ringing nonstop within 3 hours. I ignored it, but it was so loud that I had to block the calls. Then I got a call from an unknown number. Hi, sorry for calling so late. Is this Maya's phone? The person on the other end said he was a police officer from the nearby police station. He told me that after everyone left, my mother-in-law tried to eat and then wanted me to pay the bill later, but the restaurant didn't want to deal with her after the scene she caused. They refused to let her pay later, thinking I wouldn't come back after leaving so angrily. My mother-in-law then called me to come back and pay, but I ignored all her calls. The restaurant suggested she pay with a card. But my mother-in-law didn't have a credit card and didn't have enough cash to pay for everyone's meals. She tried calling other family members to help, but nobody picked up. Eventually, she got really angry and started yelling that it was all my fault. She got so mad that she started breaking expensive vases and flower pots in the restaurant, which made the staff call the police. The police tried to calm her down, but she kept saying she wasn't wrong. The restaurant didn't just have an unpaid bill but also had to deal with a difficult customer, so they asked someone to take her home. Feeling bad for ignoring the police's calls, we reluctantly went back to the restaurant. When we got there, the police were trying to calm my mother-in-law down. She had her arms crossed and then suddenly screamed when she saw me, "You're useless. This happened because you didn't pay the bill. It's only right to help your mother, isn't it? Pay up now." I was shocked that she would say something so threatening even with the police there. The police told us that if nobody took her home, they would either drive her to her in-laws' house in their car or arrest her for not paying the restaurant bill. When I said, take her away, arrest her, or whatever, just make her take responsibility, with a serious tone, my mother-in-law looked shocked. She said, "How can you say something so heartless? I can't believe it. Just pay the bill. It's not good to have a family member arrested." I replied, "I don't care. I'm not family, and I don't want to be around someone who acts crazy and causes trouble." As I tried to leave the restaurant and let the police handle it, my husband, who had been quiet, gave me a stern look. He said, "I know what happened to Maya was wrong, but is it really worth getting arrested over?" I replied, "That's not the point. She's in trouble because she didn't pay the bill and caused a scene. It has nothing to do with me. Or are you saying it's my fault for not paying for 6 people's meals even though I didn't eat? My husband didn't say anything, but he walked past me and went to talk to the police and the restaurant staff. I knew what my husband was going to do when he walked away, so I called out to him, "If you pay for her meal and make it up to her, we're getting divorced." Think about that. But my husband didn't say anything and took out his wallet. I sighed and left the restaurant. I walked home, packed my things, and got ready to leave. Just before the day changed, my husband came back. He said, "Mom's not getting arrested." It turns out she was really wrong. The restaurant said they'd forgive her if I paid them back and promised she wouldn't come back. I didn't have enough money, so I called my brothers for help. My husband kept talking about what happened after I left, looking tired. Maybe because I didn't react much, he came over to me looking upset. "What's with the bags?" he asked. "I'm getting ready to leave because we're getting divorced." "I told you if you took her side, we'd get divorced. You can't pretend you didn't hear me," I said to my husband as he watched me pack with surprise. Then he started shouting, "What's going on today? You've been acting weird all day. I know Mom did something bad, but why do we have to get divorced? I already told you I'm being mistreated, and even when you see proof and hear others talk about it, you still choose your almost arrested mom over me. Is it weird that I want to divorce someone like that?" "I've had enough," I replied. My husband kept talking, but I didn't really listen. I got ready to leave and also got the paperwork for the divorce. The next morning, I got the divorce papers and signed them right away. My husband didn't want to get divorced, but when I said I'd get a lawyer, he reluctantly signed. Then I submitted the papers. Finally, I could go back to being a stranger. Later, my husband moved out and went to live with his parents. He used to rely on me for most of the housework, so without me, the house became a mess. He didn't like the messy house and decided to cancel the apartment lease and go back to his parents' home. The older and younger brothers ended up doing the same. When my husband asked them for help with paying back the restaurant, they got into big fights with their wives. The wives said they shouldn't have to pay for something that wasn't their fault, but the brothers used their own money to help their mom without asking their wives. And they believed their mom's words that their wives were being unreasonable and might get them arrested. Seeing them disrespect me made their love for their wives fade away, and they were faced with divorce right then and there. They also went back to their parents' home, saying they didn't want to do housework. So in the end, my mother-in-law and the 3 childish brothers all went back to their parents' house. Now there could talk of the neighborhood, with everyone saying the brothers were abandoned by their wives. Mother-in-law calls it nonsense and tries to explain how useful and ungrateful we wives were. The husbands heard the story and just nodded smugly, saying, "I knew it was the wife's fault." Divorcing them was the best choice. Luckily, I had good relationships with my neighbors, and nobody believed those stories. Mother-in-law earned a reputation as a mom who didn't do a good job raising her sons, and the husbands were known as mama's boys who always took their mother's side instead of supporting their wives. Even though my angry mother-in-law and the husbands tried to reach out to me, I had changed my contact details and moved to a new place. They couldn't find us in the end and are probably still grumbling about it. Not having to deal with my mother-in-law's stress is a big relief, and making new friends has made a big difference too. During the divorce, I became friends with the ex-wives of my husband's brothers. We bonded over our shared frustrations with my mother-in-law. Now we often hang out, go out to eat, and shop together on weekends. I might even have to thank my ex-husband for introducing me to such wonderful friends. It's great to be free to do what we want now. It might seem obvious, but it feels really freeing. I want to live our lives without getting involved with people like my mother-in-law. I'm grateful to my new friends. If it weren't for them, I might still be living alone. They've made me feel happy and not lonely. I'm truly thankful, and I hope our friendship lasts forever.